Okay, let's talk energies for the week of June 16th through the 23rd. And yes, if you haven't noticed, I think I have resolved some of my lighting issues. I hope I'm coming through clear and loud. Okay, so with the energies that I feel are going to be coming from now until whenever, forever, I think I'm going to do, if it's relevant, a weekly or bi-weekly, whatever intuitively feels right, energy report. Help guide us through these energies and understand what's happening, and maybe throw in a practical tip that the sage gives us. So I noticed a little bit of the collective energetic shift on Friday afternoon at US, getting a little bit more unsettled, agitated, maybe anxiety. And that certainly could be some of the political war mongering, posturing stuff. Something's bubbling up. Not that I feel anything is going to happen, but there are some posturings and political tactics and some underhanded moves going on that I think are unsettling people, right? And remember, June and July, for now and forever, this is the time that people are being asked to unhook from the group. And what I mean by the group is the collective thinking, the collective fear porn, the trying to get the collective hooked into a scenario, okay? And this week, that's what it's all about, is learning not to get hooked into that narrative, okay? So the way I get the energy reports is, number one, I always, connect with the sage and use the I Ching. So I get a hexagram for that. And this week's hexagram is 25. And the interpretation of the I Ching, when I'm referring to the I Ching, I use the translation by Anthony and Mook. I want to throw that out there because there are other translations that what I'm saying may not directly correlate, okay? So the I Ching hexagram that we got this week is 25. And it represents innocence, sort of a return to innocence. We'll get to that in a second. And I also use a deck of 70 card deck. It's called the Transparency deck, and it has beautiful images on it that you can layer images. But I only got one card this week. And the card that I got, well, let me mention, the image that I got when I checked in intuitively was I saw the apple falling from the tree. And it was reminiscent of the Garden of Eden and the apple not falling from the tree, but it felt to me a loss of innocence, that this week has the energy of the loss of innocence. And so the card that I drew, out of 70 cards, what card do I draw? This card is the wreath. I don't know if you can see that very well, but it has apples on it. And this card each of these cards come from a direction, one of the 4 directions, and this is the west, representing lots of emotions and lots of water. So I suspect we can expect more water, of course. That's like a given this year. But more water in regards to emotional upheaval. And this card, it's the number 21, by the way, which is also significant. I need a little water. What's going on here? Pardon me. This card also represents autumn, meaning the darkening of the light, the days getting shorter, the nights getting longer. And with this loss of innocence image, this feels like a little bit of a darkening, a dark, coming in this week that will challenge our innocence. And what does autumn also represent? It represents the harvest. And I think this is very relevant to, I think, what the Bible talks about, the harvest, the culling of people, or the culling of people's attitudes. And I really feel very strongly this relates to what I talked about in the monthly report. This is all about time. You're either going to stick with the collective narrative and be in fear porn and, put your head in the sand and just let things be, or you're going to make a decision, make a change, and not get hooked in. So it's a time of harvest during this loss of innocence. Okay, so I feel this week is going to be quite challenging, and the weeks can roll into the next week. So something's going to stir us again and make us feel a little unsettled, not happy. And what the 25th hexagram talks about, innocence, is that innocence is not about projecting or expecting. So this week's message from the sage is, it may appear that all innocence is lost on this planet, right? Everything seems to be going backwards. Have you noticed all the political stuff, our loss of freedom of speech on YouTube, Facebook, abortion, all these things, everything seems to be, and looks like, somebody's trying to get us hooked into war, tensions everywhere, political leaders that are acting kind of unprofessionally. It all seems to be going backwards. We're losing our innocence. And this week may be pushing us near the edge. And what the sage is asking us is to stand in a place of neutrality. Do not project any of your own thoughts and belief systems onto the situation, and don't have any expectations. So whatever you read or hear or see going on in the world, just have a very neutral position, okay? We don't want to add any of our own constructed beliefs and angers and emotional attitudes into the pot, into the cauldron. And we don't want to expect what we've always expected from the past, okay? And so the sage wants us to come out of the mind, and if we can, get into our heart or our feeling body to be able to discern the truth of the situation. Check in with your heart, check in with your body. Is what they're saying in the news the truth? Okay? Remain innocent to what is going on in the world, so we don't get caught up in the fear and the restlessness and the poor me, or angry or hate them or whatever. Okay, remain innocent. And the 25th gene key is acceptance. The shadow of that gene key is constriction. So we are going to feel some constrictions this week. They're going to challenge our ability to accept, but we don't want to project or expect any of our normal outcomes. Remain neutral and everything will be okay. And just decide to unhook from the collective fear, doubt, fear porn projections about what should be happening on this planet. I hope you find this helpful.